welcome to my channel. My name is Meredith, and today I want to talk about the things that I took away from reading Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. So this is not going to be taking us through Save the Cat as an entire book. It is just some of my takeaways. Some of the things that after reading it almost a year ago, I still think about and still employ in my story to this day. With NaNoWriMo coming up, I figured this is a perfect time to think about this book again and to put out a video so that other people can maybe get some sound bites from Save the Cat if they don't have time to read it themselves. First of all, I want to address a couple things. Why is Save the Cat so popular? Probably because it's incredibly helpful. I was a pantser and kind of still am, but I wrote the first draft of a novel and it was 200,000 words and it was a complete mess, structurally terrible. I really hated it structurally. And I got Save the Cat on a whim thinking, I need to restructure this thing. What's the book that's gonna help me? And I read this book and I was kind of mad about it because it told me things that made me think I really fully had to restructure this book in a way that was very jarring. And I didn't like it because I was very resistant to that idea. But once I actually just tried plotting it that way, the book came together. So I'd say if you haven't tried it, pick it up, read it, give it a shot. And if you don't like it, there are a lot of other plotting methods out there that might be for you. All right, let's get into the takeaways. Number one is that character is integrally tied to plot. The first chapter in the book is called Why Do We Care? And basically that means, why do readers care about the story? It's because of the characters, it's because of what they're going through and the choices that they make and the lessons that they learn. And we call that a theme. I struggled with plot so much, and I still do, and one of the things that really helped me actually be able to come up with plot is learning that it's not just random things that happen, it's the things that transform a character into basically a different person. They learn a lesson, they understand a theme, and in them understanding a theme and becoming a different, better person, I think that the reader can also take part in that transformation a little bit. And that's what's so special about reading in the first place. As an example of how this is true, let's take a look at some plot points. Save the Cat has a lot of plot points to choose from, but the ones that I want to look at are the All Is Lost beat and the Dark Night of the Soul, and also the aha moment, which is not called that in Save the Cat. I think it's called something more like the push into Act 3, but it's basically the moment when the character learns the theme. And it's a huge plot point. It's a really big moment when the character makes a different decision, decides to put away the mistakes that they've been making. And the last one is called Dig Deep, which is a part in the climax that is kind of a mini beat within Act 3, where they have to emotionally pull from the theme that they learned, and they can't rely on the mistakes that they were making in the past and their kind of mistaken character belief. These are three really big plot points that change the story in meaningful ways. And they are not things that happen to the character. They are ways that the character internally changes in their motivations and their beliefs. And things like the catalyst and the midpoint and the bad guys close in will be things that will push the character towards these moments of realization and transformation. But at the end of the day, those are really the important ones. Those are the heavy hitting ones, is when characters hit rock bottom and realize they can't keep going on the way that they have been, that they need to do something different. So I think that these plot points show that at the end of the day, plot is really about character, not about random things happening and them contending with it. The second thing I learned about are called story genres, and she has 3 chapters in the beginning talking about character and plot, and then she spends 10 chapters, the majority of the book, going through how the plot changes when applied to different story genres. And that is a really remarkable thing. I'm going to read out a couple of the genres that she has in here. Why Done It? That's basically a mystery. Institutionalized, when someone is in an institution and needs to make a decision to join him, leave him, or take him down. Superhero, being extraordinary in an ordinary world. Dude with a problem. Fool triumphant, the victory of an underdog. Buddy love, the transformative power of love or friendship. Out of the bottle, a little bit of magic goes a long way. Golden fleece, road trips and quests. Monster in the house, which are scary stories. There are more than this, but these are the 10 that she talks about. And in each one, she goes through the ways that the basic beats change when you apply them to different genres, and in each one of them, she has very specific things that she brings out that change the way that the story structure works. And so there's elements that are specific to a mystery that are not specific to a romance, because they're not going to show up, because you're not going to have a detective character. You're going to have a love interest. And the point of having different genres is that they basically give your character a goal, right? So a romance is going to give the goal of getting together with somebody, or a superhero story is giving the goal of taking down a villain or learning a power. Or institutionalized is either trying to leave an institution or trying to take down an institution, or making the decision to possibly join the institution. In the Golden Fleece genre, it's about a quest. There's something that you have to accomplish that you need to go on a journey to go do. And so you're not going to have a journey in something like a mystery. It's probably going to happen in, a relatively local place, so that there's clues and you're understanding more about the actual people who live there and who could be a suspect. And so it really changes the goal of the story and how those beats fall. So understanding that a story isn't just these same beats over and over again, but it's one of these 10 or many more than 10 genres makes the story way more interesting and specific rather than just those beats, and those beats change when applied to these genres. And I think that learning where your story fits into these genres is a really great way to improve your storytelling. The third thing I learned is that structure is really cool because it cures the saggy middle syndrome. And if you think about it, that's actually a really funny term, because saggy middle basically means saggy book. The middle is the biggest portion of the book. And if that is falling flat, then probably most of the book is gonna fall flat. Maybe you can have a killer ending, but it's like, if we were meandering through the middle on the way to the great ending, then it's really not nearly as good of a book as it could be. And I think the best thing about Save the Cat structure-wise is that it completely cures that problem, because it gives you this beautiful scaffold to hang your story on. Let me explain. Save the Cat breaks down the main parts of the story into 4 parts. So Save the Cat teaches that you have the beginning, which is Act 1, and it goes up until the catalyst and the debate, and then the character makes a decision to jump into a new world. And by the time the character jumps into the new world, we hit Act 2, we move on. And then the second quarter is the fun and games, which is where the character is adjusting to the new world, and it is the premise. So it's whatever you put on the back cover of your book to say, oh, there's a detective and he's solving a mystery. This is where the detective is gonna jump into solving that mystery. But then a midpoint happens. Something changes. And then the character is thrown into an upside down world. The third quarter is called Bad Guys Close In. And basically it takes the fun and games world and flips it on its head, and things get dangerous. And then of course we have the fourth quarter, which is the climax, Act 3. If you look at the 2 middle quarters, they have distinct goals and purposes. And where fun and games is leading up to the midpoint, Bad Guys Close In is leading from the midpoint twist down to the climax, where things get serious and dangerous and the character is going to come to a breaking point. And if you have this midpoint twist holding up the middle, it gives your story this structure. If you don't have that, then of course the story is going to meander. It's going to have that saggy middle syndrome. My stories now never need to have a saggy middle ever again. They have a purpose for the middle, because there's so much meat to it when you think about each part of the middle having a specific role. They're not just, oh, I'm just going to let my character do whatever they want to eventually get to the end. No, your character has a very specific journey to go on, and it needs to be tight, because these books are not allowed to be over a very high word count, and we need to get them written and they need to be meaningful. Every scene needs to accomplish a goal towards your character's transformation. The next thing I learned from Save the Cat that I did not know before is the concept of a B-story character. This was completely new to me, but the purpose of a B-story character is to teach the main character the theme. The B-story character comes in Act 2. They're only in the character's life because of the catalyst, because of the new world they've stepped into. So in the Hunger Games, Peeta is now in Katniss's life because she is in the Hunger Games, and she would never get to know him if she wasn't in that situation, if she hadn't stepped into that world and made that decision to volunteer for her sister. And throughout the course of the entire middle act, and of course then the last act, the B-story character helps your character realize the theme. They help them transform and become a different person, a better person, hopefully, unless it's a negative character arc. A B-story character can oftentimes be a romantic lead, it could be a friendship, or it could even be a villain. There are a lot of options for your B-story character, but the concept of having a character that is a companion that helps them to grow and change and doesn't let them stay static is a really gripping idea to me. And when you look at any good story, they all have it, because people change each other, and hopefully the B-story character will change them for the better. The next thing I learned from Save the Cat is the importance of characters debating after a catalyst. So there's two catalysts in the Save the Cat structure. Number one is the main one, which starts them into the story and actually gives them a push into the upside down world of Act 2. The second catalyst is all is lost. Basically, everything crashes down and the character needs to decide what to do about it. Do they go home? Do they give up? Or do they keep pushing through and learn the lesson that they need to learn by the end of the book and accomplish their goal? Save the Cat doesn't emphasize this as much as I think I do in my head, but these are my takeaways. In my own story, having debates has been a really cool part of storytelling for me because it makes the character internal conflict come alive. So we have a character who wants something and is afraid of something, and now they're forced into a situation where they need to make a decision. Can I stay the same? Can I stay comfortable? And can I get what I want while staying comfortable? And can I avoid the thing that I'm afraid of? Or do I need to step outside of my comfort zone in order to get that thing that I want? And it's really interesting seeing characters wrestle with making this decision in the debate beat. And I think there's just a lot of depth there that is going to mirror what they're going to go through again, but having learned a lot of lessons in the next debate, which is after the all is lost. So the debate in the second half of the book is the dark night of the soul, where they maybe go home, they might give up, and then they learn the lesson and they decide to rally and fight against the big bad. And so having these two debates as like mirrors of what the character is learning and struggling with through the whole book as just moments of magnified internal conflict is really fun for me and enlivened the story for me when I realized, oh wait, I'm writing a debate right now. And that's why this is so interesting. It's so full of emotional tension. Understanding the concept of a debate, even though it's not something that Save the Cat went into as much as it helped me, I think being aware of the concept was really revolutionary for writing and for creating emotional conflict and tension. And the last takeaway that I want to talk about from Save the Cat is this, and it's kind of two parts. Number one is that knowing story structure does not mean that your story will be formulaic. As I already talked about, having a story genre, which makes it way more individual, and then an actual genre, so if it's sci-fi versus fantasy versus contemporary versus romance, then that's a whole nother level of making your story different from someone else's. But having this structure is something that holds up your story, that makes a story shine and makes it actually satisfying emotionally, and it makes a person feel like they've gone through a transformation or a change alongside the character. And I think the way that Save the Cat shows that this is true is that it uses so many different story examples, and it goes through the beat sheet in all different actual genres and all different story genres that she talks about. And she shows that even though each one of these stories has the same beats, they are so different and they accomplish so many different goals, they evoke so many different feelings, and they take characters through very different transformations. To me, that really speaks to the fact that this isn't formulaic, but rather is the underlying emotional scaffold of any good story. And I think if you go through all of her story examples, you'll probably find that too. But it's interesting because there are writers who go completely away from this method of story writing, like Haruki Murakami, and have a more meandering style, and they still accomplish really wonderful transformations of character and evoke a lot of really interesting thoughts. So not to say that this is the only way to write a story, but just to contend with the idea that people don't want to do this because it creates a formulaic, overdone story. I really don't believe that to be true. And the second part to this is that knowing story structure and trying to plot out beats will hinder pantsing. Pantsing versus plotting is an interesting dichotomy, because I am in a weird place where I really have enjoyed plotting and it has helped me so much, but I have the nature of a pantser. For a lot of pantsers, plotting makes them feel boxed in and like there's a lack of creativity, a lack of freedom, a lack of spontaneity that they need to really write their best, and I totally understand that. But even if writing down all of the story beats is not helpful, knowing what they are always is, because then you can see if your story is really on track to have an emotionally satisfying ending, or if it's tracking to have a saggy middle. And some of that is intuitive, but I think that knowing story structure in a little bit more depth, even if you don't plot beforehand, first of all, will save you tons of time in revisions, and second of all, will probably help you write the book faster because you'll be motivated to write it if you are believing in your story and you know that you have a good one. And for people who are less extreme pantsers, it can also be really great to just plot and try to work out what these story beats are and then write the book and know that you have the main ones figured out. But if you need to change the ones in the middle, you're totally fine to do that because it's your story and you can do what you want at the end of the day. And that's what I ended up doing. Changing the scenes around a lot, but I still ended up fulfilling those basic beats. And I knew the story was going to be good because it was following these beats. And even if I pantsed within that, at the end of the day, I had a really solid structure in my hands. And so it gave me way more freedom and peace of mind as a pantser to figure out what I wanted with this story while knowing that I was doing that within the confines of something that was emotionally satisfying. So I think either way you look at it, knowing about story structure or trying out plotting this before you write could ultimately end up really improving your writing. So those are my takeaways from Save the Cat. I hope you enjoyed this, and maybe it can help in your Preptober process, thinking about NaNoWriMo and the book that you're maybe going to be writing in 1 month. Thanks so much for watching. Like this video if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I will be posting writing videos and my drafting videos for NaNoWriMo and more Preptober content. I hope you'll stick around. Thanks so much for watching. Happy writing. Bye.